Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If then God so clothed the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind.
This is our kingdom, a kingdom of righteousness. Praise the Lord. Praise ye the Lord.
For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. To the kingdom of Israel!
Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh.
The election, an aristocracy, meaning rule of the best, a group or class considered superior to others, a government by the best men in the state, a governing body composed of the best men, and that's elect. We're about to have it all. All right? Psalms 37 and verse 11. And it reads, "But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace." That word for peace in the Hebrew is shalom, which goes into safety, soundness in body, meaning we're going to truly have rest, welfare, health, prosperity, peace, quiet, tranquility, contentment. So we're going to fully enjoy the planet Earth. We're going to rule and exist within the Lord's creation as we were created to do. I'm ready to rule the world, man. How about you?
Let the golden light of this sunset guide our hearts in peace.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Makakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples for your brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, pushing to get up out here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al-Shah. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, what we'll get into is dealing with this term escalation trap, and it just shows that the Heavenly Father, all right, through Yahweh Shah is in control of everything, because the way that we seeing particular things play out. These nations, are caught in what you call escalation traps, and it's all to fulfill, all right, prophecy, man. Everything that we see happening on the global stage is geared towards fulfilling the prophecy of Yahweh Bashim Shai. There's nothing that's operating outside of the Lord's will. Okay, there's nothing that's operating independently, from the agenda of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Even Esau rebelling, against the Most High and trying to undermine the Most High, through this technocracy. Well, it's all the will of the Lord, and what we're seeing, all right, with these events, all right, of these nations, they have these secret councils, trying to establish this new world order, which is causing what infighting, all right, and this infighting is causing actual conflict, and these conflicts, all right, have begun, to spark actual war. Okay, and we know that the Third World War, okay, is the war that's going to usher in Yahweh Shah, which is going to put an end, okay, to Esau's empire and the ambition of these heathens as well. Okay, so it's beautiful how the Lord got this thing mapped out, and as we see, one thing about prophecy, man, it's a faith booster to see prophecy happen real time, because this is evidence that He is. Not only that these things are happening, but they're happening just like He said they will happen, man. Okay, so we're gonna get into a few things, man, and the more this devil tries to roll out this new world order, the closer he gets to his demise, man. So Esau Edom is in the biggest trap ever, and he's trying to set traps while he's inside of a trap, man. you know, this man is trying to set traps while he's inside of the biggest trap ever, man. You know, so let's go here to the book of Second Ezra in the GNT, Second Ezra 15 in the GNT. All right, so you go and you start at the top. Okay, Second Ezra 15 and 1 said, "The Lord says, proclaim to my people the prophetic messages that I will give you." And this is a commandment from our power, okay, to speak to Israel, all right, prophetically, man. That's why prophecy is at the forefront of the ministry, man. Okay, that's why the Lord raised the prophets, all right, to prophesy, man. You know, that's at the forefront of everything that we do, man, as we teach, because even when we go into history, it's to shed light on, all right, future events, man. You know, everything is geared towards prophecy, man. Okay, we touch on other things as well, character building, you know, going into, the fruits of the spirit, okay, going into, some of everything, man. Okay, but everything ties into prophecy, man, because even the character building is gearing us, all right, for these prophetic times, man. Okay, so everything is centered around prophecy in the ministry, man. Okay, it says, and then have them written down because they are true and will be fulfilled. Okay, so the Lord has written down His will. You go into the Bible, it's the will of the Lord. Okay, explain. You see, it's the future explained according to the will of the Lord. When you go into the true understanding of the Bible, okay, and that's why as we have the true understanding of the Bible, nothing is catching us off guard, man. Okay, because we understand the Lord's will. You see, we know everything fits within, all right, the will of Yahweh Bashim Shah. And these things will be fulfilled, and we're seeing everything being put in place to just continue on the fulfillment of prophecy, man. Okay, it said, do not be afraid of those who plot against you or be disturbed by their unbelief. Yeah, man, because, most people, all right, they mock prophecy, because prophecy is against, their lust, okay, which is to keep America up and going, which is keep this system up and going. Okay, because their mind is that, okay, this thing is going to work itself out. They're going to get a good leader. Price is going to go down. All the chaos is going to stop. This war is going to be just like the other wars. They're going to fight and come to some agreement. And no, prophecy is okay. It's telling the story, man. Because see, within prophecy, Prophecy doesn't play into, all right, the agendas of the masses, man. Okay, what people want, because people are optimistic, okay, of some type of happy ending to this current situation. No, the happy ending is only for the elect of Israel. Okay, it's going to be suffering for everyone else. Okay, death or captivity. You see, that's the options for everyone else, man. 2/3 their option is death or salvation. All right, well, Israel, their options are death or salvation, which the 2/3 are going to get death. So like you for misspeaking. Okay, but for Israel, the option is death or salvation. You see, 1/3 is going to receive salvation, and 2/3 going to receive a death, man. Okay, a judgment. You see, so when you go into the scriptures, man, most people oppose scriptures. They're against the message because it goes against, what they want. All right, it goes against their desires, man. And the Lord is fed up with this place, man, and he's finna show that he's fed up. He's showing that he's fed up, man. That's why he got Esau, okay, scrambling, trying to pull this new world order off, man. That's the Lord closing this thing up, man. So this devil going hard body with this new world order rollout, it works in our favor, man. Okay? Because only thing Esau can do is run to his end. Okay? Ain't no detours, ain't no, side streets, is nothing but a road that leads to this man end. And he has no choice but to run to it, man. It says all unbelievers will die because of their unbelief. And this you Israelites, man. And we're not here to make you believe. We're here to tell you what it is, man. And if you believe or not, that's between you and the Most High, man. Okay? But a lot of people, they're going to die in their unbelief. Okay? Because people think that their belief is required, okay, before prophecy can go forward. Nah. Okay? Matter of fact, your unbelief only plays into prophecy, man. You see, verse 5, it said, the Lord says, I am going to bring terrible disasters on the whole world, war and famine, death and destruction, man. That's why this is called what? World War III. Because there's going to be many fronts that's going to open up in this war. And we know the main, all right, battleground, okay, is going to be, in their region, okay, what they call Megiddo, okay, or what they call the Middle East, but really, Western Asia, okay, over there modern day, Syria, you see, in their region of the earth, man, okay, which their region been on fire for a while, okay, but things are only going to escalate, man, okay, war is going to increase, famine is going to increase, death and destruction is going to increase, man, okay, and they're talking about when they start this war again, they're going to start, striking critical infrastructure, man, okay, power plants, desalination plants, you see, which is going to cause what? Famine, death, and destruction, man. And these things are going to escalate, okay? Because Iran said, okay, the war already regional, and they said if America strike again, now the war going to go global. Okay, see, things only escalate. It ain't like it died down and they, are at the stage to before February 28th. No, this war, all right, when it kicks back off, it's going to continue where it left off. Okay, and it's going to escalate from there. You see, it says because wickedness has spread everywhere and evil has reached its limit. Yeah, evil is peaking out. Wickedness is peaking out, man. And see, we only see what's on the surface, man. Okay, the earth is full of so much wickedness, man. There's so much secret wickedness that we don't even know about, man. Things that we couldn't even stomach, man, that's happening in the world on a normal basis, man. Okay, and the Most High, all right, he has this thing mapped out to where evil has a cutoff point, man. Wickedness has a cutoff point, man. Okay, and by the events that we see happening, all right, the Lord is at the point to where he's finna cut off wickedness, man. Okay? That's why these events are happening, man, because the Lord is getting ready to address wickedness in the earth, man. Prophecy is a response, all right, to the wickedness, all right, that has saturated the earth, man. Spread everywhere. All these governments are tainted, some more than others, but all these governments are tainted by the wicked rulership of Esau Edom, man. Verse 8, it said, I will no longer remain silent about the wickedness of these godless people. I will no longer tolerate it. They have murdered innocent people, and the blood they have spilled cries out to me for revenge, and the souls of the righteous are constantly pleading for vengeance, man. So now there's an outcry, as the Lord has raised up, the prophets in these last days. Okay, and through the prophets you have, a church of believers, a body of believers, man. Now there's an outcry against this devil, man. There's a major outcry. See, the prayers of the righteous, they go to the heavens, man. They go through Yahweh Shai and go to the Father, man. With the angels take them to Yahweh Shai, okay, is to present these prayers to the Father, man. These curses, we put up curses daily, man. Daily we should be putting up curses, man. A day shouldn't go by without us putting curses up on this place, man. Because they're reaching to the heavens, man. And that's why the Lord is beginning to make moves, man. Okay? We're witnessing prayers, okay, being answered, man. Okay? So the fact that this devil, his mind is made up to go forth with this agenda, well, that's his destruction. That's his downfall, man. And the Lord is to the point that he's not going to tolerate this nigga in rulership no more, man. This nigga got to get out of here, man. At the end of the day, this nigga got to get out of here, man. If you don't feel like that, we ain't got nothing to talk about, man. You call yourself an Israelite, and at the forefront, okay, of your belief is not this nigga got to get out of here, man. Hey, man. You off, man. Okay, it's to the point now where if this nigga is not the main concern, okay, you off, man, as an Israelite, man. Okay, because it's to the point because we all got differences and particular things, man. But one thing about the elect, man, they agree on the doctrine, okay, and they agree on that this nigga got to get out of here, man. And we're awaiting a righteous kingdom, man. Okay. So let's read down. It says, let there be no doubt, says the Lord, I will hear the plea of all innocent people who have been murdered, and I will take vengeance for what has been done to them, because it's written to be martyrs in these last days, those that are going to die in Yahweh Shai. Okay, and when you see, because it's going to be the same time that the MOTB is mandated, going to speak about those that will be headed for refusing to bend the knee. Okay, and that's how everything is going to speed up, man, because that's one thing too, man, like being a martyr in Yahweh Shai, man, that's another sign that, okay, be right here. Okay, because the MOTB is mandated at this point. Okay, and now that opens up the war to go nuclear and Yahweh Shai to return, man. So it's not going to be long, when it gets to the point to where the Lord start allowing, martyrs in his name before he comes in revenge. All right, before he comes with that great vengeance, man. You see, he said, my people are being led to the slaughter like a flock of sheep. They will no longer have to live in Egypt, man. Yeah, so the Lord is going to intervene. You see, the Lord is, the Heavenly Father is setting the stage for Yahweh Shai to come and intervene in the affairs of the earth, man. Okay, that's what's happening, man. That's the Most High's agenda, is to set the stage, all right, for Yahweh Shai to come and intervene, man, and shut all this down, man. Okay, he said, I will use all my strength and power, okay, which he's going to use, great strength and power, because you can't measure the Most High's strength. Okay, it's immeasurable. Okay, because in the KJV it says he will use great strength and power, okay, to bring them out of the land, and that's going to be through prophecy. All right, and their main prophecy is Yahweh Shai, his return, which Yahweh Shai is coming back, with great power that he's received from the Father. Okay, it says, I will bring disasters upon the Egyptians, the worst, as I did earlier, and I will destroy their country. Okay, and this is what we're seeing. Okay, the Lord is destroying, Okay? America, man. You see? And the elites got their agenda to where they do want to weaken America for their new world order. But see, the Most High is going to keep going way beyond the agenda of the elites. Okay? He's going to keep this thing going. All right? Ain't no breaks, ain't no stoppage, ain't no, see, right now is more, it's the elites, they're trying to do a controlled demolition. Well, the Most High got a controlled demolition, all right, that's on a whole nother level. Okay, he got complete demolition, man. You see, it says the whole land will be in mourning, it will be shaken to its foundation. When I, the Lord, strike it and pound on it, the farmers will mourn because their seed will fail to sprout, and their trees will be destroyed by blight, hail, and terrible storms. Okay, and we're seeing, manufactured. All right, we're seeing manufactured crisis, and we're also seeing the Lord is intervening, man, because Esau, he doesn't control the weather, and he can manipulate the weather. Okay, he has certain limits to he can manipulate the weather, but he can't just conjure up, the weather from scratch and do what he want. All right, like he an X-Man or something. Okay, but he can manipulate the weather. He can manipulate, and because the earth is out of whack, there's the earth, the weather is just thrown off because this nigga is so out of tune with the earth as well. That's a factor. But ultimately, the Heavenly Father is judging, man. The Heavenly Father, okay, is causing things to happen, all right, to break America down to its knees, man, and ultimately turn this place to a desert, man. But there's going to be a great suffering, all right, here in America, man. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go here and we'll slow it down a little bit. Yeah. So this is something that's not getting reported on, man. Western drought threatens life as we know. All right, no one is talking about it. So let's play a little bit of this.
In the last century.
We're here with our one of our favorite guests, Tony Heller, an environmentalist, geologist. He's got a BS in geology. He's an electrical engineer, a teacher. He's testified at the first congressional hearing in support of wilderness in '72. He's got a broad, successful career in science, education, environment, engineering. He analyzes climate science claims and is the founder of RealClimateScience.com. Welcome back to the show, our good friend Tony Heller. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Jimmy. It's good to be here.
Now, I'm going to show you this. I have this video sped up a little bit. It's about 5 minutes long. It's about the drought that's happening right now in Western United States, and I can't believe that everybody's not talking about it. So I want to come back to you and get you to tell me all about it. Here we go.
Hoover Dam is now the deadliest water failure in recorded history of the American continent. Hoover Dam has gone dark for the first time in 90 years. Lake Mead has dropped to 953 feet, 3 feet above the elevation where the turbines physically die. Las Vegas has banned outdoor irrigation and drained the fountains on the Strip. Arizona has cut farm water allocations to 9% of normal. 40 million Americans across 7 states get their drinking water from one river, and that river is barely there. The Bureau of Reclamation used a word in writing that no federal agency uses without lawyers in the room: Deadpool. But here's the detail that tells the real story. The water managers who pulled the kill switch on Hoover Dam on April 9th did not call it an emergency. They called it a foundational system failure. The bathtub ring on Lake Mead is now visible from satellites, 10 stories of missing water carved into the canyon walls. And the snow on the Rockies that is supposed to refill it this spring never arrived. The mountains are bare. The turbines are silent. And the people in charge of the largest water delivery system on the continent are admitting on the record that the climate the system was built for no longer exists. The countdown to April 9th was not a surprise. It was watched. On April 1st, Lake Mead sat at 953 feet. The minimum power pool elevation is 953 feet. That is the entire margin between a functioning dam and a dead one. On April 4th, the Bureau of Reclamation convened an emergency briefing with water managers from Nevada, Arizona, and California. One senior engineer in the room described it later as the quietest emergency session he had ever attended. Nobody argued. Nobody pushed back on the data. They just looked at the numbers and understood what they meant. On April 7th, the United States Geological Survey released a secondary analysis that carried the weight of a verdict. Without significant unforeseen precipitation, which the National Weather Service rates at less than 3% probability before June, Lake Mead reaches dead pool elevation by late summer. Dead pool is not no power. Dead pool is no flow. The Colorado River physically stops moving through the dam at all. On April 9th at 10:47 in the morning Mountain Time, the Bureau formally suspended hydroelectric generation. The turbines spun down. The power output flatlined. 90 years of uninterrupted operation through World War II, through the post-war Vegas boom, through every drought the 20th century produced, and now, silence. To understand what failed, you have to understand where the river actually begins. The Colorado does not start as a river. It starts as snow. Storms cross the Rockies and drop frozen water across mountain ranges in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and New Mexico. That snow sits, packing down for months at high elevation like a frozen savings account. In spring, it melts slowly, drains into streams, feeds the Colorado River, and fills two massive reservoirs, Lake Powell behind Glen Canyon Dam and Lake Mead behind Hoover Dam. From Lake Mead, the water moves downstream to Las Vegas, Phoenix, Tucson, Los Angeles, San Diego, and the Yuma Farm Belt, before what is left of it crosses into Mexico. The Natural Resources Conservation Service publishes a monthly snowpack report for the Upper Colorado, and water managers read it the way a pilot reads a fuel gauge. In April 2026, the number next to the critical zones above Lake Powell was not 10% of normal. It was not 5%. It was 0%.
0%. So the snow needed, to fill, the river didn't come, like we say, Esau, he can manipulate this crisis in his favor. Okay. He can manipulate this in his favor because he can't stop snow from falling. He can't create snow. There's certain things, because even when you go into cloud seeding, when he makes it rain, well, you got to have clouds to do cloud seeding. Okay. And where do the clouds come from? The Most High. Okay. Now, like I say, he's able to manipulate things. All right. And this devil, he's able to take, certain, weather, events. All right. And use it to his favor. Okay. And you can tell that they're using this to sabotage, all right, crops, man, and water supply. They want depopulation. Okay. And water is, and water shortages, all right, going to play a major factor in depopulation, man. Okay. Once you have 0% of the snow needed, all right, and that doesn't happen, and the Most High not involved, man. Okay. Just like with Katrina. I remember watching some documentaries, and you said, and it was an Edomite, one of these Edomite higher ups. Okay, he said Katrina did, in one weekend what we've been trying to do for 20 years. They've been trying to flood New Orleans and, gentrified and, do whatever wickedness they had planned or whatever, a money grab with the insurance and this and that. But the Edomite said Katrina did in, one weekend, all right, what we've been trying to do, all right, for 20 years. Okay. I remember, I never forget that Edomite said that, man. Now they did blow the levees, all right, but the storm itself, okay, that was sent from the Heavenly Father, man. Okay. And they was able to manipulate the situation, blow the levees, and cause, even more flood. Okay. So these certain weather things that's happening, these devils, they're able to manipulate it, okay, to their favor of depopulation, shortages, all right, distress, all right, desperation, which because all these things play into making his new world order, all right, more marketable, as a fix-all to the crisis, the poly crisis that's coming to the earth, man. Okay, let's play a little more of it.
This is where the impossibility ladder begins. No one told you that the previous worst snowpack reading on record was 19% in 2002, during a drought already being called once in a generation. The decade of stress test models that water scientists ran after that year never included a 0% scenario. No one told you that the spring runoff forecast into Lake Powell now sits at 4% of average, barely a trickle, and a trickle cannot sustain a civilization. No one told you that the bathtub ring on Lake Mead now measures over 100 feet tall in places. A 10-story building of water visible from space. No one told you that the dam is doing more than keeping the lights on. Hoover Dam manages flow to agricultural regions that produce roughly 15% of the entire United States food supply. That is not a regional number. That is grocery stores in every state in the country pulling from water that flows through this one structure. And the mechanism of how the dam dies is brutally simple. As the lake drops, the water surface falls below the penstock intakes that feed the turbines. Below 950 feet, the pressure is insufficient. The turbines cannot spin. The power flatlines. 3 feet of water separated the largest hydroelectric facility built in the 20th century from total shutdown, and now those 3 feet are gone. Dr. Amanda Fielding, senior hydrologist at the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center in Salt Lake City, reviewed the April data and used language water scientists almost never use publicly. She did not call it a bad year. She did not call it an outlier. She called it a foundational system failure. Dr. Jonathan Weiss, paleoclimatologist at the University of Arizona's Laboratory of Tree Ring Research, has spent his career reading Colorado River flow history out of 1,200 years of tree rings. His 2025 paper identifies a structural aridification signal, a drying trend so consistent across a millennium of data that it cannot be explained by natural variability. This is not weather, he said. This is the region changing. The mechanism is straightforward. Warming ocean temperatures and jet stream destabilization are displacing winter storms northward into Canada. The mountains wait. The snowpack does not come. Whatever precipitation does fall arrives more often as rain than snow, and what snow does accumulate melts earlier in the season before the reservoirs can catch it. The Rockies are not just receiving less water. They are losing the ability to store it. Integrated vapor transport into the upper Colorado. For the winter of 2025 to 2026, was the lowest measured since satellite monitoring began in the 1980s. Climate models projected conditions this severe would arrive somewhere between 2040 and 2060. The scientists who built those models were not wrong about the destination. They were wrong about the speed. The future did not wait. It showed up 14 years early, decades ahead of schedule, and the Southwest was not ready.
People keep asking, how do we actually get an AI agent on our team? Well, it's easy. Watch how I do it in 60 seconds.
Nobody was. Elena Vasquez has farmed the same 600 acres outside Yuma, Arizona for 31 years. She grows romaine, broccoli, and spinach, shipped to grocery stores in 47 states. On April 10th, she opened her federal water allocation notice for the coming season. It read 9% of historical baseline. She read it 3 times, standing in her kitchen, then sat down and did not move for a while. You cannot grow lettuce on 9% water, she told a local reporter. You can barely keep the dust down. 200 miles north, Las Vegas, a city of 2.2 million pulling 90% of its water from Lake Mead, implemented stage 4 restrictions on April 10th. Outdoor irrigation was banned, hotel pools were drained, the fountains on the Strip are dark. Spring bookings at one South End hotel dropped 40% in 10 days. In Needles, California, residents turned on their taps on April 11th and got reduced pressure and discolored water. No groundwater alternative, no desalination, just the Colorado. The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which serves 19 million customers, has activated emergency reserves designed for short-term disruption, not multi-year structural failure. Arizona has projected crop losses this growing season above $7 billion without emergency groundwater substitution. And Colorado's state water engineer filed an emergency compact relief petition with the federal government on April 8th. As of this recording, the federal government has not responded. What happens next is genuinely unknown. The 1922 Colorado River Compact divides the river between 7 states based on flow measurements taken during one of the wettest decades in the basin's recorded history. The math has not worked for a long time. It is finally, publicly, breaking in real time. The river that carved the Grand Canyon over 5 million years does not disappear overnight, but it is now diminished beyond anything the people who built this civilization allowed themselves to imagine. The political framework is built on assumption.
So let me,
Yeah, so just wanted to get into that and see no one's talking about that, and that's going to be crucial. Okay, that's going to be crucial, man, because the Hoover Dam, that water, all right, from the Hoover Dam, we said Hoover Dam has, all right, an installed generating capacity of 2,880 megawatts. It generates approximately 4 billion kilowatt hours of hydroelectricity annually, enough to serve 1.3 million people across Nevada, Arizona and California, man. See, these things gonna be crucial, man. All these things are gonna start to hit. You know, the way the Lord got it, man, it's like these things are gonna hit back to back to back. You know, the energy crisis, the water crisis. All right. Um. Uh. Uh. You have the energy crisis. You have the water crisis. You have the crops, the fertilizer. You have these pestilence. You know, nowadays, you know, talking about the pestilence. Then you have this ongoing war. So it's like it's set up for all these things to happen. You know, at one time. You know, let me see this. Yep, she said I live in the mountain of North Arizona in a small town named St. John's. We haven't had snow for a few years, maybe more. You know, yeah, man. You know, you get the water for sharing. You know, when you got information, like when you got on, you know, if you got on the ground information about certain things, because you know, it's one thing to hear about it in these reports. You know, but people that actually live in certain areas, you know, have that, you know, firsthand, you know, testimony. But yeah, man, and you know that's of the Most High, okay, to withhold that snow, you know, because the Most High is formulating, all right, polycrisis, man. You know, as an Esau is able to manipulate particular things, and you know, the snow, like the fake snow and particular things that the devil, you know, have going on. All right. You know, he's able to manipulate things, but ultimately it's the Most High that set the atmosphere, you know, for polycrisis, man. You know, for all these things to happen at the same time. All right. So let's go from there. So while he's doing these crises, what is this devil doing? He's rolling out, you know, this new world order. Okay. He's rolling out these data centers. Because one thing that ain't stopping in the midst of these crises is the construction of these data centers, all right, and surveillance, okay, infrastructure, man. Okay. So let's see. Let's go. Yeah, let's go here. All right. And show you that they're just rolling out.
We're going to be getting into data.
Okay, they're rolling out. All right, this the DPI, digital public infrastructure. Okay, which surveillance plays a major part. You know, and these things been on the increase, and nobody's been talking about it like that. You know, so as you have these poly crises forming in the background, okay, if a brother want to post that second Ezra 16 and 21 and 22, Baba Shah. Okay, and then what's the other one? Is it second Ezra 6 and 25? Suddenly, you know, shall the storehouses appear empty, you know, because these things gonna hit on the sudden, man. It's gonna be a lack of food all of a sudden. It's gonna be a lack of water all of a sudden. It's gonna be a lack of this and lack of that, you know, all of a sudden, man. These things are all gonna hit, okay? And it's perfect timing because everything has a appointed time. Matter of fact, if the brother get that too in Isaiah 47, okay, should come to her perfection. You see, it's all in perfect timing. Okay. You also go there. Let's get Isaiah 47 verses 8 and 9. Bob Kushah. Yep. Isaiah 47 verses 8 and 9. All right. Well, let's get these here from the brother, Mr. Brother GMS Spiritual Arc. All right, 144. All right, this is our second Ezra 16 and 21. Said, behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Okay, sword, famine, and great confusion. Okay, so people don't see that evils are growing upon the earth. They don't see that the water shortages, you know, the dams, you know, the hydroelectricity, you know, they don't see all these things in the background. Because one thing, because the war is a thing, was the Esau get people, you know, to be over focused, okay, on one event, but there's many events that's happening, man. You know, there's many things that's happening, and then he pushing propaganda, a lot of things that really, all right, don't matter. You know, he use certain narratives to have these spin-off, okay, that really don't mean nothing, have people distracted, and Trump tweets, okay, then what's really happening, in the war, what's really happening, with droughts, what's really happening with the shortages, and you know, so everybody, a lot of people are distracted. You got the finals, you see the playoffs. If nigga know more about the playoffs than okay these crises that's growing in the earth, man. These shortages, okay. So people in their mind, just because they're able to, go to the bar, get a few beers and watch the game, they don't understand the evils that are growing in the background. Okay, sword, all right, more war, all right, more civil unrest, famine, and great confusion. You see, and you keep reading, all right, verse 22, and it says, "For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine." Many people finna starve, man, and you can see the atmosphere is being set up for that, man. Okay, you're gonna have your manufactured crisis, your manufactured famines, and the Lord is really making it to where crops not gonna grow. You know, and be actual shortages, man, and see people consume so much, that when things get scarce, man, when that supply, is hindered, man, hey, things are gonna, hey, things are gonna disappear soon, and people's access to food, okay, is gonna disappear. And what do you think that he's gonna present, okay, as a way to get access back to food, man? I know, because these devils got, warehouses of food, stored up because they want to distribute. Because the New World Order is based on them distributing. Okay, it's what they call a rationing system anyway. Okay, so they want to create an atmosphere for where people get used to rationing systems anyway. Okay, and then in order to get, to get access to the ration food, man, he's going to present that sea hill, man. Okay. It said, "For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger, all right, shall the sword destroy," man. With this, through civil unrest, the violence, the domestic violence, the local violence that's going to take place, okay, or whether you get sent to war, or whether, you're just here when the missiles come, the ultimate sword, man. Okay. So you survive, all right, the sword. Okay. Well, guess what? Uh, you if you just survive the famine, well, guess what? Okay, we still have, people are gonna be warring over food, and then you're gonna have ultimately the missiles that's coming over here, man. The ultimate sword. Okay, so judgment. All right, no, there's no escaping this judgment, man. Okay, Isaiah 47 and 8 and 9. This is your brother Mark Ball. It said, "Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasure, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children." Okay, and this is the mind, okay, of the American public, man. Okay, they is so used to crisis happening all over the world, in their life, just going on, unhindered. You see, America is used, all right, to listening to crisis on the news while their life goes on unhindered, unbothered. Okay, they dealt with some high gas prices before, a riot, here and there. Okay, but for the last, especially since the Civil War, America really hasn't been through, a lot like these compared to these other nations, man. You know, and especially since after World War II, when the American dollar became the world reserve currency, man. Because there's things that the American economy can get away with that other nations can't get away with because they have this petrodollar, all right, Ponzi scheme, man. Okay. But see, that's finna come crashing down. Everything's finna come crashing down. All right. American exceptionalness is finna be destroyed. Okay. It said, "But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, and one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they shall come upon thee in their perfection, their perfect timing, all right, for the multitude of thy sorceries, man. Okay, because this is the motherland of witchcraft and wickedness, man. Okay, over here in America, man. Okay, so let's play this. You know, I say these things are going to happen in perfect timing, man. You know, it's in the scene like the Lord got it set for them to happen back to back to back to back, man. You know, so let's play this.
Oh, we're going to be getting into data centers. Okay. So for one, this is a short little video. So I've covered this before. So, and if you're not really caught up with this, so in Box Elder, Utah, they're building this massive, I think it's a 40,000 acre, I think it's like 62 square miles, if I remember correctly, this data center. And the town, like they basically, they all opposed it and they voted against it, but it still was passed. But then we found out that it was going through the MIDA, which is the Military Installation Development Authority. Right, so it is a quasi-state entity. But anyway, so this is a short video of this is the Governor Cox of Utah talking about this data center being built. Because again, if you think that while I have seen a lot of success stories of local towns organizing and stopping data centers from being built, you're also seeing there are examples where it doesn't matter what the locals think because it's the military is coming in. It's government contract. There are things they're basically bypassing. It doesn't matter what you vote, right? It just doesn't matter. So watch this 15 seconds. Watch this, and just listen. Okay, this is the governor of Utah, kind of trying to explain why they just shafted the people in Box Elder and allowed the building of this to continue. This 40,000 acre, just insanely massive data centers. So watch this.
Again, this is going through MIDA, so it's a quasi state entity, but I don't have control over that entity. I think I appoint one person to that entity, and again, this is going through.
So this is a governor of Utah, and also I've never heard people pronounce quasi.
So what you have, all right, with this thing with now they're saying data centers are under. All right, what you call MIDAS, which is military, okay, and infrastructure development authority, okay, and when something is linked to the military, well, it's under national defense, okay. Well, guess who pays for national defense? Taxpayers. And if something is for national defense, well, no one has authority, all right, to to go against it because it's for the sake of national defense. So no matter what you vote locally, say that, local counties get together and vote against, this new data center. Well, look, this is for national defense, so there's nothing to vote on. Okay. This got to be done. And see, the governor of Utah, all right, which he says he only appoints one of the 8 members of the MIDA board, but really he appoints 5. And see, these locals are being bought out. Okay, these governors are bought out. They're bought and paid for. All right, the county level officials, they're bought out and paid for. Okay, there's no one in the American government that's working on behalf of the American people. Okay, they bought everything out. Okay, these people, and then they buying it out with the tax money. The money that they're using to buy these people out are coming from tax money. So now that they got data centers, all right, under the banner of military, okay, linked with military and national security, okay, now speaking against it can deem you a domestic terrorist, okay, and then if something is added to defense, okay, if the data center is now a defense asset, it can be added to the military budget, which these major Google and Meta, all right, XAI, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and the video, whatever, now they don't have to spend their money on these data centers. No, this is going to come out to taxpayers' money. Because remember, Trump asked for 500, he signed an executive order to allocate $500 billion, all right, to data centers. Okay. Now, in order for him to do that, all right, he has to link it to some type of government spending. So the American military budget was already right at $1 trillion. Okay. So how much money did Trump and Pete Hegseth request from Congress for next year's military budget? Okay. $1.5 trillion. So that's $1 trillion plus 500 billion. You see? It's all taxpayer money. So what you think that 0.5 trillion is going towards, man? The data centers, man. Okay. So this devil, he got all these loopholes and wickedness and word games that he play, with his law, but that's what this nigga is doing with his data centers, man. Not only are taxpayers going to pay for the construction of the data centers, then they're going to afford the electricity bill. They're going to split it amongst the locals, man. Okay, the American system is so goddamn wicked and crooked and goddamn conniving, man. You see, just looking at these things, I'm not an economic expert, man, but just dealing with the basics and seeing how this shit works just a little bit, it's like, god damn, hey, this nigga gotta get out of here, man. You see, and you American people are so goddamn dumbed down and simple that you still play into this system that does nothing for you, man. Okay, that does not one thing for you, man. Okay,
which that's kind of a strange thing, but that's beside the point. But here you go. Here's the governor who's basically saying, "Hey, look, this isn't my fault. This is kind of above my head, right?" So obviously, this is a federal level thing that's happening that they've kind of come in and they're building this massive data center. It doesn't matter, right? So here, I'll play it again for you. Just look at the guy's body language. Like he knows that he's screwing the people in his state. Like, and he's just up there trying to kind of stutter and explain himself, but he can't. Watch.
Again, this is going through MIDA, so it's a quasi state entity, but I don't have control over that entity. I think I appoint one person to that entity, and
yeah. Anyway, you can see it's like it's obvious that there's something much bigger happening. But what's also crazy is that this is an executive order. This is kind of refreshing. This was back in July of 2025, last year. So we're seeing this in action now. This is an executive order called Accelerating Federal Permitting of Data Center Infrastructure, right? Signed by Mr. President Trump. Okay. It says, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America is hereby ordered. And he basically goes in, okay, my administration has inaugurated a golden age for American manufacturing and technological dominance and surveillance of American people. Oh, no, sorry, he didn't mention surveillance in that. That was me. He says, we will pursue bold, large-scale industrial plans to vault the United States further into the lead on critical manufacturing processes and technologies that are essential to national security, economic prosperity, and scientific leadership. So, again, this is like, Trump, to me, his last term, to me, like it's like, how would you sum up Trump in his last term? For me, it was Operation Warp Speed. Okay, that was it. It's like he did a lot of great things, but there was a one thing called Operation Warp Speed that I cannot remove that from my brain. As much as I want to try to look the other way and trust the plan, this guy was the center of Operation Warp Speed. But if you look at what's happening in this administration now, it's data centers, it is big tech, it's Palantir, it's Meta, it's Amazon, it is this, it's data centers. I mean, this is one of the big things that Trump, and not to mention it's the Strait of Hormuz, right? It's working together with Israel or on behest of Israel, or however you want to kind of angle that one, and shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, which is potentially going to cause catastrophe around the world. That's just the reality of what it is. Okay. So again, we look back, this has been part of the plan. This is what they're doing. But the thing is that these data centers, though, it's like they always talk about them. Oh, it's for AI. Oh, it's for, for jobs and technology. It's the AI arms race. And okay, yes, there is some truth to that, but in my own opinion, these are the surveillance nodes, right? This is what's that AI doing? They're not building all these AI data centers so people can, make videos of cats driving cars with AI. These data centers are being built for AI to process data. What is that data? It's the data they're collecting on all of us. That just is the sober reality of it. That these data centers are the Death Stars of the surveillance state that's being built here in America. And one of the big things that's being built on this is Flock. So I'm not sure if you've been following Flock. So Flock are these cameras. They're being put up. I mean, to me, this is a direct violation of the Constitution and our own privacy. But they're putting these Flock cameras everywhere, right? They're putting these Flock cameras everywhere. And these Flock cameras are these AI cameras that are gathering data on every single thing that walks past them. They're recording sounds. Some of them have drones they can deploy to follow people if they want to. They're recording everything. So if a car drives by and has a scratch on the door, it records that information. It feeds it to law enforcement. It feeds it to, I'm sure that this is kind of plugging into whatever these centralized hub is of surveillance of the American people. But look at this, okay? This is mind-blowing. This is showing you, okay? This is going to show you the amount of Flock cameras in America from January 1st, 2024 to May 2026. Okay, watch this right here. Oops. Whoops. There we go. Here we go. So, watch this. Again, this is the Flock.
And remember, kid.
Okay, don't need your noise. This is the Flock cameras popping up across America. Okay, right here now we're in 2024, October, November 2024. 2025. And if
you're so you see all these blue dots popping up. Okay, this is the infrastructure. This is New World Order infrastructure. So they're rolling out the infrastructure. Okay, in the background, you can see, it's mainly concentrated in the East, Central America, Southeast, the East Coast. Okay, California, okay, the West Coast, all right, and they plan on putting a lot of these data centers in Central America, okay, meaning what you call the North, all right, the Mid-Northwest, okay. So yeah, man, because a lot of this is still, open land. You go to Idaho, Colorado, okay, but you just see how much they've increased. Just look at those blue dots are those Flock camera systems that are being set up, and that's been since 2024. Okay, so you look at the map now, and then 2024, this is what it looked like with Flock cameras. Okay, but these last 2 years they've been running. When Trump got in office, they started running. Okay, they started running with this thing, rolling this thing out. You see, so while they got all these different distractions going on, they're rolling out this new world order, man. Okay, and they're rolling out the infrastructure needed, all right, for a surveillance state, all right, for a complete control system. So let's look at it again, how much these Flock cameras have increased.
Okay, right here now we're in 2024, October, November 2024, 2025. And if you're listening on podcasts, we're watching a map of America just kind of get covered in Flock cameras. So you want to go back and watch the video of this, I recommend it. Yeah, this is it. So like this is the surveillance state. Like as much as I hate saying it, America is turning into communist China in terms of surveillance. Now, granted, right now we still have our freedoms.
Yeah, see, this is the Edomite that's optimistic about America. It's over with, my nigga. It's over. Okay, you still talking about the Constitution is over. Okay, you still talking about this amendment is over. All right, Esau going with his play. Your elites are going with their play. All right, and you not included. Okay, you see, you're not included in it, man. All right, you're going to be a digital slave. Okay, That's your future. Okay, for you American Edomites, man. All right. So I put this up too. I'm post this. I got another one. And at the end of the day, it's just time to get this nigga out of here, man. You see? If a brother could real quick for this next video, I know, but you know, you're gonna like this video here, man. Because we've been talking about it in the spirit, you know, but then the Lord gave us a little footage, a little preview. All right. Because hey, prophecy from the Buddhist nigga off stage, man. But if a brother can get Isaiah 32 and in the NLT, Isaiah 32 in the NLT and verse, let me make sure it's the exact verse. Yeah, Isaiah 32 and 5 in the NLT. Okay. Yeah, Isaiah 32, 5 in the NLT. Let's watch this real quick. Let's go here. Let's see. Thought I had it queued. Let me see. Oh, here you go. Yep. Yeah, because we've been talking about it, man. All right. So what you have with these graduation, all right, these tech CEOs and this the ex-tech CEO of Google. Okay. But he's talking to the graduation in Arizona. All right. And let's see what happens, man. And this is just a prelude to what the Lord's finna do to these elites, man. They are finna get booed off the goddamn stage, man. Prophecy is gonna sandman these niggas off the stage, man. Okay, nigga, your rulership is terrible. Okay, so let's play this.
Who has so often been the person who came to this country and made it better.
College is a scam. Okay.
No, we do not know the precise contours of what this. If you'd let me make this point, please.
If you'd let me make this point. How about we replace this guy with AI? Because we don't. Why do we need speakers at commencement ceremonies? Why don't we just replace you? I bet you I get a much better speech written by AI than this guy is coming up with. I'll tell you that.
There's no G's you could talk to. I'm sure we can make an AI him.
Choose a diversity of perspectives, including the perspective of the immigrant, who has so often been the person who came to this country and made it better. We thought that we were adding stones to a cathedral of knowledge that humanity had been constructing for centuries. But the world we built, artificial intelligence that reflects those values, the world will be unimaginably better for it. I'll switch sides.
He does not know his audience.
You are surrendering your.
That nigga Daniel walked off stage, man. Hey, finna boo this nigga off stage, man. Nigga, it's time for Esau to go. Okay, he making them. Don't nobody want to hear that shit no more, man. Them speeches where you don't know what the hell you talking about. Okay, niggas just lying, man. Okay, they barely letting this nigga get a point out, man. Every time he mention AI, man, they go crazy, man. You see? And the world is finna boo this nigga off stage, man.
Agency. We have only seen maybe 1% of what is to come. I'm very proud of this. If you don't care about science, that's okay, because AI is going to touch everything else as well. Whatever path you choose, AI will be how work is done. If you want to learn something entirely new,
nigga said AI gonna touch. You can tell he frustrated. Nigga getting red. All right, eat him. That's what it means. Red, nigga, red. Okay, you know this nigga frustrated. If you don't care about science, it's gonna touch everything, man. He basically saying you know, nigga, we gonna control you niggas, man. Okay, we gonna control you going you. Okay. But now, man, you see that the devil, he's not getting the response that he used to get. There was a time when people just cheering everything this nigga said, man. You know, talking about AI has only seen 1%. Nigga, AI done maxed out, man. Okay? There ain't nothing left you can do, all right, but bring out and roll out this control grid, man. Okay? AI done tapped out, it's done maxed out. Okay, your kingdom is maxed out. Okay, and now it's just time for you to clear the stage, man. Okay, let's play a little more.
And you want to have a personal tutor in any language for the cost of an internet connection, you can have it. You can now assemble.
He just keeps going. I mean, could you talk about that's how little regard he has for the people he's hired to talk to. He just keeps going. He doesn't care.
He's got to do his time, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's right. Fuck you. Pay me. That's
He's
his
got to do the whole
attitude.
time. That's what I do when the crowd hates me. I do my whole time while they hate me.
Well,
Their
team of
fees
AI
are paid
agents
for this.
What's that? Yeah, their fees
Their
are
fees paid
their
for this
school fees
asshole.
paid for this asshole.
to help you with the parts that you could never accomplish on your own. When someone offers you a seat on the rocket ship, you do not ask which seat. You just get on. The rocket ship is here.
Oh,
let me give you some
what
advice.
a metaphor.
First,
Let me give you
find
some
a way to
advice.
say yes. Listen.
Let me give you some advice. You should hire some personal security for the rest of your life. Let me give you a little piece of advice. You should go live in the desert, hire some security, get 24-hour armed guards and surveil and cameras to surveil. And whenever you go out in public, you should go around with armed guards also and wear a bulletproof vest. That's
The jobs of tomorrow.
That's my little advice. What's that?
The jobs of tomorrow will be to provide security for this guy.
Yeah.
You bring the judgment. You bring the conscience. You bring the perspective. I'll give you one final reflection. Happiness, I have come to believe, is not the same as joy. Happiness is derived from meaning. Meaning in your relationships. Thank you very much and good night.
Get this nigga out of here, man. And that's the only time they cheer when that nigga left, man. You know, and that's the spirit in the earth, man. Scriptures talk about how the fir trees rejoice. If a brother want to put that in, you know, Isaiah 14. So he have another Edomite woman. All right, and you can tell she crumbles. Okay. Let's play this one. This little Edomite.
This is a Bachelor of Arts graduation, and here's this. I don't know who this woman is who's speaking, but look, I mean, these people are shocked that they're not excited about the tech bros taking their jobs away and their future away, and yet they still have to pay off their student loans without jobs because they made it illegal for you to declare bankruptcy and expunge your student loans. You can get rid of all kinds of debt. That's always been a compact. You can always declare bankruptcy and start over in the United States. Around the world, you could do that, except you can't get rid of your student debts and you can't get rid of your medical debts. Guess who runs your country? What? Here we go.
The rise of artificial intelligence is the next industrial revolution. Oh. What happened?
What happened? Oh, I reminded them that their jobs are all going to be gone and they still have to pay off their student debt and they can't afford a house. What happened? Oh, what happened is you got exposed as being an out-of-touch piece of it. That's what just happened.
Is that the chick from Friends, the blonde chick? Who's that? Wait, he goes, when someone offers you a seat on the rocket ship, don't ask what seat it is. Just get, like in the wheel well or storage, luggage.
Yeah.
Just be grateful.
Okay, I struck a chord.
Yeah, that chord would be a F flat, and that F is F-U.
Oh, I struck a chord. Who is this?
I don't know who this is. Could you try to find out who this is?
Dude, imagine you're going to be out in debt and you paid for this asshole to come and
Can you
blather
imagine
about
that?
your replacement? Now, AI means Asian Indians, right? I'm kidding. Come on.
May I finish?
It's so funny you're not going to have a job.
Only a few years ago,
Oh boy.
AI was not a factor in our lives.
They all hate you.
All right.
How? I mean, at no point did that. There's a.
Yeah, just time to pack them Edomites up, man. You know, let's get a couple precepts, and then we'll segue to this escalation trap too. You know, dealing with this war. So, yeah, but young, go help your uncle, auntie, man. You know, we're losing it, man. You see, Esau looking like Eddie Kane trying to come back to the 5 heartbeats, man. Okay, the outfit still got the outfit, but the talent gone, man. Okay, so let's get a couple precepts, man. Yeah, this is let's see what I want first. This is the brother, all right, GMS Spiritual Art 144, Isaiah 14:7 said the whole earth is at rest and quiet, and they break forth into singing. Because you see when that first nigga, Eric Schmidt, whatever that nigga name is, and he worked $43 billion, man. Niggas don't care. Okay, they booed that nigga off stage, man, and they cheered when that nigga left, man. You know, creation is going to rejoice when this nigga is removed from power, man. You know, creation itself is going to rejoice. Okay, when they're not subjugated to the rulership and cruelty of Esau, man. Okay, and nobody want to hear that AI shit, man. It's overrated. It's hyped up. Okay, it's not doing nothing like they say. It can do particular things, but you know the main thing is for this control greed. Okay, that's what the main thing is AI for. Is to govern. All right, this control grid. All right, the digital infrastructure. Okay, to regulate and enforce. Okay, this digital infrastructure, man. Okay, Isaiah 14:8 says, "Yeah, the fir tree rejoice. The fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fella is come up against us, man." So when this nigga is removed, man, the earth can just be. All right, and this nigga is removed from power, man. The earth can just be, man. Okay, and you go into this here. All right, this is the brother Bayan Yashala, Isaiah 32:5. It says, "In that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes, scoundrels would not be respected, man. No respect for these niggas, man. Okay, get this nigga off stage, man. You know, every time this nigga open his mouth about AI and with them BS promises that he used to making, and this nigga getting booed out of there, man. Okay, and it's just going to increase, man. But that's the spirit that's in the earth, man, is to get this nigga off stage, man. Okay, so let's go from there. Let's segue now. All right, so I want to go into this dealing with the escalation trap. Now, when you go here, yeah. There you go. So yeah, he's gonna speak about, you know, these different conflicts and wars that's going on and how all these nations, these world leaders are caught in what you call the escalation trap. And we'll go into it. But I'm gonna let him expound on these things, and then we'll get, you know, the definition on it. All right. And all these nations that's in these escalation traps are a nation that's in prophecy, man. You know, if a brother can go ahead and put Ezekiel 38, you know, I think like verses 3, you know, 3-5 maybe, you know. The trap is laid for Babylon. We always get it. You know, I think it's 51-24, 50-24, Jeremiah. All right, let's get that. You know, let's get Isaiah. Let's get Proverbs 19-21. in the NLT Baal Shah. Okay. You know, my brother like, Yash want the whole Bible. You know, let's play a little bit of this and then we'll go into the escalation trap, you know.
Looking for a way out of this horrible thing he got himself into. Doesn't that sound just like Trump? He's in an escalation trap, Mario. And what is he doing? He's going up the rungs of escalation exactly because the previous round failed. Exactly. It's an escalation trap, just like Trump is in, Putin is in it. And by the way, if she were to, and I just wrote a piece on the Professor Pape Substack on this, if she were to launch an attack on Taiwan, this would suck him into an escalation trap. So the problem is, these wars are not settling down quickly here. And there's a real reason. The weaker side has more capability than the stronger side is recognizing. And that's true in Iran, that's true in Ukraine, and it would be true in Taiwan. This is why this is not working out where any of these strong guys want them to work out.
Do you realize how much money this will save us? What's that? I just built a budgeting app with Base 44. Look.
Is there a possibility that Putin may find Europe very weak right now and consider US involvement to be limited in terms of Article 5, and may, putting aside a tactical nuclear strike, may escalate or fall further into the escalation trap by striking targets through asymmetric means or directly striking targets within NATO territory?
Just to zero in on what I think is a more likely thing coming with Putin, because I think that you're right. He is assessing greater weakness in Europe. I think what it's going to mean is there's a certain belt. If your readers or listeners would Google Ukraine defensive belt here, you would see behind the line in the Donbass, there's a certain belt that Google Maps will be able to articulate for them. They can see it on the map. It's a little bit hard to describe it. It's a little bit easier to see an image and see why it looks like a belt and so forth. That is a critical corridor that if Putin were able to launch a ground offensive and break through it, that would probably break the back of the Ukraine defense, and you'd probably lose the ground all the way up to the Dnieper River, almost all the way to Kyiv. So this is a critical area here. It's not just another piece of territory. Well, he's been trying to do that for several years, Mario. Okay. And I just showed my students how there's been almost no territorial change in the last several years. It's not because that objective has not been there. It's not because Putin doesn't know it. It's because the drones in Ukraine here have been preventing Putin's ground forces from being able to concentrate to do that breakthrough. You see what I mean? Because you'd have to literally punch through the line. And you'd say, well, he's got a lot of troops, right? Doesn't he have 500,000 or 400,000 mass? Not enough to break through. It's like World War I. There were lots of troops stationed on each side of World War I, hundreds of thousands, and they couldn't do the breakthrough because of the artillery. Here, it's not artillery, it's the drones. And so I think he may try it again this summer, Mario, because Putin is in a trap. If he backs down, just like you want Trump to back down here, this has enormous domestic problems for these folks. Putin could, for Trump, it's about whether or not he loses the midterms and the House and the Senate, all that. For Putin, it's about whether he lives or dies. You see, this is a much bigger cost for Putin to actually step back here. So,
and who do you think has Putin in this situation? All right, which is Russia. All right, God. May God. All right, God, which is the same thing. Okay, who you think has Trump in this situation? And we know that there's, higher, authorities behind them. Okay, with them being the face of, these certain prophetic nations. All right, who you think has them in this trap to where they can't go backwards? Because you go into Putin, because even lately the Russian, because the EU just struck. NATO just struck deep into Russia, and the Russian people is saying like Putin being too soft because Putin is conservative, he's firm, He's calculated, but they're saying, nigga, you getting a little too soft. Like, we need to go hard. We need to go with these NATO nations, man. Okay? So he can't go backwards. He can't come to a peace deal over this Ukraine situation. No, he gotta keep advancing. And it's a certain strategic area called the Donbass that Putin's been trying to break through. Okay. And he hasn't been able to break through this point, which, he break through Donbass, he can go to Kyiv, get the capital, and keep going on until you NATO nations. Okay. So the Most High got Ukraine holding the line. Why? Because it's all in the Lord's timing, showing you that it's not in the timing of these nations, man. Okay. America, they wanted to take down the Iranian regime, okay, and have full control of the straits for themselves, man, for the Western oligarchs, man. Okay. But no, the Lord don't want that. But the Lord got Trump in the escalation lab to where he can't fall back. He can't try to claim some type of victory and fall back, man. Okay. No, he's in the escalation trap. You see? So Putin in his escalation trap, may God. All right, Trump in his escalation trap, Babylon. All right, Iran, because Iran can't go backwards neither. You see, because if Iran, if they don't keep their foot on the gas, okay, if they go backwards in any type of way, if any deal that they try to make gives back what they've gained so far, within this conflict, then it's going to be a lot of political pressure on the leaders in Iran. So everybody's in the escalation trap. All these prophetic nations, the Lord got them in the escalation trap, man. Okay, let's play a little more, then we get their definition.
So this is what's part of the escalation trap. It's part politics. It's not just about the military hardware. And so I think Putin is stuck in an escalation trap. The Iran-Iraq war, right in your neck of the woods, that went on for 8 years, Mario. 8 years.
That's crazy.
This is why these wars go on and on. It's not because we all love the cost. It's because the leaders are caught in escalation traps, and those traps are just so difficult to get out of.
And ain't no getting out of it. You see, there's no getting out of it, man. Okay, you can only go forward. They can only go forward and fulfill the will of Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. Now let's get a couple precepts. Okay. Then we go into the definition. So when you go to let's see. Let's get this one first. All right, this is on Proverbs 19:21. It says, this is Brother Mark Abal. It says, you can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. So you can make many plans, but only the purpose of Yahweh Bashim Al Shah will prevail. So people can make many plans, okay, from, these world leaders, all right, these generals and, these economists, these corporations, everybody can make plans, but it's the Lord's purpose that's going to prevail. Okay, and what we're seeing is the Lord's purpose prevailing, and His purpose is within prophecy, man. Okay, ain't no sidestepping prophecy, man. You got to roll with it. Okay, you got to play your role. Okay, you have to play your role in prophecy, man. Ezekiel 38:3, it says, and say, this is Brother Spiritual Ark 144. It says, and say, thus said the Lord power, behold, I'm against thee, O God, O chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. All right, so Russia, has been assigned to be a chief priest. And these nations all come under the banner of Russia militarily. Okay, and Russia is going to be at the forefront. All right, and Russia is going to be, all right, a major player, all right, in this opposition to Babylon. Okay, Babylon and these small hats, man. You see, verse 4, and it says, And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, okay, with bucklers and shield, all of them handling swords. Yeah, so this is a military alliance that the Lord is putting together. Okay, the Lord is in full control, all right, of Russia, okay, of China, of Iran, of America, okay, of Turkey. You see, and the Lord is preparing, all right, a war. Okay, and he's putting all his alliances in place, man. All right. And Russia has been a guard to these nations by supplying them with equipment, all right, with military what do you call it? Intelligence, okay, satellites, okay, especially with Iran. That's why you go to verse 5, it says Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, man. Okay. So we know, all right, that when it comes to these conflicts, we know what nations are going to align, and we know what they're getting ready to do, man. They're getting ready to come west, man. These kings of the east finna come west, man. Okay, and it's all within the timing of the Lord, because they're all in the escalation trap. All these, these deals that these oligarchs, these elite families got in the background, and these global agendas. Well, guess what? You can't sidestep this. You see, you can't sidestep the war. Okay, you see this the will of the Lord in within this war. See, these elites can't get past this, man. Okay, they're gonna have to deal with this, man. You see, so when you just go into what is the escalation trap? All right, let's go here. It says an escalation trap is a vicious cycle where a small conflict or competition, because there's actual competition between these nations. They got agreements about this technocracy. Okay, they want to roll this technocracy out. They're in agreement with this complete control system. But there's small competitions. All right, these small competition between these nations are beginning to intensify. Okay, and that's why you see actual war breaking out. Okay, because there is competition between these nations and these different factions of oligarchs, man. Okay, of how they want to run this thing. You see? So what we're seeing is escalation trap. These small competition between these nations are intensifying. Okay, and it's gonna keep intensifying. Okay, until the fulfillment of prophecy, man. You see, it says an escalation trap is a vicious cycle where a small conflict or competition intensifies because each party continuously escalates their response in the attempt to gain the upper hand. Instead of resolving the issue, every retaliatory action expands the conflict or makes the initial problem worse, locking everyone involved into a costly loop they cannot easily escape. And this is the Lord's doing. The Lord got these nations in escalation trap, man. Okay, to where every time this nation do something, the other nation does something that escalated. Okay, because when they was at war, they was running up the escalation ladder, man. These 40 days from January 28th to April, like the 8th, whatever night, okay, they was running up the escalation ladder, man. Okay, until this ceasefire. You see? And guess what? When they start back to fighting again, they're gonna start the war where they left off, and they're gonna run up that escalation ladder, man. Okay? All the way until what prophecy is fulfilled. You see? And everything is happening in the Lord's time. All right. So mhm. So this is the tit for tat dynamics. It says party A makes a move. Let's say, and you can use party A for the uh the small hats in America when they did their first strike, February 28th. Okay, so they made their move. They killed the supreme leader. They destroyed a school, a girls' school, and it says so Party A made their move. America's a small hat. Party B, Iran, responds more aggressively to counter it. Start hitting all those bases in the Middle East, okay, in their region, man, okay, or Western Asia. All right, it says causing Part A to escalate even further. All right, for the small hats in America, what did they do? They escalate further. They started just bombing, all right, relentlessly. Okay, it says illusion of control. All right, leaders often initiate limited tactical actions like precise airstrikes or aggressive business negotiations, believing they can control the outcome, only to find the adversary reacts unpredictably, widening the crisis, man. Okay, and you know they knew particular things could happen. Okay, but you have to remember, America gambled on this thing being over quick. Okay, they gambled on that situation with Iran to be over quickly. Okay, they want a regime change. All right, like Venezuela. You know, they expected a little more resistance, man, but they didn't fully know how far Iran was gonna go with it. Okay, of course they knew that their bases, because they moved a lot of their personnel into hotels, and guess what? Iran started hitting the hotels. You see, certain CIA leaders, were knocked off. Certain Mossad leaders got knocked off. But you'll never hear that, you know, in Western media, man. Okay, and Tel Aviv was just getting pummeled. Okay, to where the people in Tel Aviv had to live in them bomb shelters, man. Okay, nigga, get you a cot. Okay, in the blanket, nigga. This is where you live now. Okay, they wasn't expecting that. You see, so that goes into escalation trap. Now, just to go specifically into Ezekiel 38, let's get this real quick. In Ezekiel 38. All right. So I just asked it real quick. All right, just to show you that he is. Okay. So when you go into what does it mean to put hooks in thy jaws in Ezekiel? Ezekiel 38:4 said, putting hooks in our jaws is a powerful metaphor for divine control and sovereign power over arrogant opposing nation. Here's the specific meaning behind the imagery. It says irresistible, okay, divine control. Just as a fisherman uses a hook to lead a massive, unwilling fish, the Most High, all right, is dictating the movements of God, which is Russia, and his invading armies, the rest of those armies under Russia, China, Iran, Turkey, okay? The Most High is making it clear that this invasion happens on his time, not theirs, okay? You see that? So this is the Heavenly Father in full control of everything that we see happening, man. He is, okay? So it's gonna come a time, man. Hey, where Russia gonna bust through that certain line, all right, and they gonna just continue to move west, man. Iran is already in motion, doing what they, doing what they're doing. China is on deck. Turkey is already in position. Okay, you already have this animosity between Turkey and the small hats, man. So everything is in place, man. It's all happening according to the will of the Lord. All right. It said the enticement. It said the imagery implies that the Most High is drawing out or baiting these hostile nations. All right, traditionally viewed as an alliance led by Russia, Iran, and Turkey, so they can ultimately face divine judgment, man. You see that? There it is, man. It's plain as day. So we seeing these moves being made, and you look at all these situations, and we realize, like, damn, all these niggas is an escalation trap, man, at the same time. All right, and they all lead to these niggas got to face each other, man. Okay, and ultimately they're gonna have to face Yahweh Shai. Okay, that's ultimately what everything is leading to. They're gonna have to face Yahweh Shai, man. If a brother want to get there real quick, Revelation 19 verses 11. Okay, and 12. Okay, so let's get this real quick. This is the brother. This is the brother GMS Spiritual Arc 144, Jeremiah 15:24. Says, I have laid a snare for thee and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh by Shem Shai. Thou art found and also caught. Okay. So Esau has walked in, the elites have walked into this trap, man. Because the elites are behind, these nations, and how they move, but who's controlling the elites? The Most High. Okay, and the elites have walked Babylon into this snare. Okay, the oligarchs of Russia have walked Russia into a snare. Okay, the higher ups of Iran have walked Iran into a snare. Everybody done walked into this trap, man. Okay, and Babylon finna be turned to a desert behind this. See, Babylon gonna get it the worst. This has the worst implications for Babylon, man. Okay, verse 25, it said, the Lord have opened his armory and brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans, man. And the weapons of his indignation are these nukes, man. All right. And America has been the most proud nation in the earth against the Most High. Okay. And that's why America is going to get the worst judgment, man. Okay. Nuclear destruction, man. Okay. Death by fire. You see? So we go to Revelation 19:11, GMS Spiritual Arc 144. It says, and I saw heaven open. It's Yahweh Shai coming from the spiritual realm to this realm. They're coming through their portal, man. Okay, and behold, a white horse, all right, the chariot, okay, their father chariot, that massive chariot, man, all that power. Horse goes into power, man. You see? It says that white goes into pure power, man, from another realm. So John the Revelator is seeing pure power from another realm into this realm, man. Okay, it says, and he that sat upon him was called faithful and true, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. In righteousness he doth judge, okay, and make war, man. Yahweh Shai is coming to wage war in righteousness, man, against all these nations, man. Okay, it said his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his head wore many crowns, okay, because he's coming to taking all the authority from the earth. Okay, all these governments that have any type of authority, well, Yahweh Shai is coming to script that authority, man, as he wages war. Okay, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. Okay, and when it speaks about that, it's not saying that no one knows his name when he shows up. Okay, no, they're saying because you got two aspects of it, because he has an authority, okay, that no one has except for him, because the name goes into your authority and rank, all right, as well. And then himself, which goes into the body of Yahweh Shai, okay, because only the elect truly reverence the name of Yahweh Shai, okay, truly, not only just the elect not only can just verbalize the name of Yahweh Shai, but we reverence and we submit to the authority of Yahweh Shai, man, okay. Well, we have the name, all right. So this madness about the name, we have the name, man. But only the elect have a true, all right, reverence for the name of Yahweh Shai, man. Truly submit to the authority of that name, man. Okay. And it says, Revelation 19:13, it says, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of the Most High, which is a title. Okay. And the armies, verse 14, and the armies, all right, which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, the rest of the heavenly host, okay, white and clean. You see? Let's go here. And out of his mouth, all right, and this the point, and out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it should smite the nations. All these nations that's in these escalation traps is leading them to Yahweh Shai. Okay, we've been getting into a lot lately, and they shall bring him to the king of terrors, man. So this escalation trap is bringing all these nations to Yahweh Shai. Okay, it says, and out of his mouth, which is the mouth is the opening of the chariot, go with a sharp sword. Okay, and it's gonna be that laser. And it says a sharp sword to show you that this fire that's coming from the chariot is gonna be deadly, man. And it's gonna be a fire that's not of this world. Okay, it's gonna be a fire that can't be conjured up in this realm. He's coming with an ugly, worldly type of fire, man. It said that with it, he should smite the nations, the militaries, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And it says that he treaded the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of the almighty power, man, because he's coming with the anger of the Father, man. Okay. The Lord is finna introduce himself. The Most High is finna introduce himself to the earth through his son, Yahweh, man. Okay. In anger, man. Okay. And these nations are going to be conquered and ruled with the rod of iron. Okay. To instill righteousness into these nations, man. And Esau is going to be done away with, because he's not built to get right. Okay. You see? And this is how the Lord finna boo this nigga off stage through Yahweh Shai and them chariots, man. Okay? These little college speakings is just the beginning. It's gonna end with Yahweh Shai getting your ass off stage, man. All right, for good. So that was the point, just wanted to get into that. So Lord will you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. We want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Mekakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards other brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the whole collect. Shalom.